Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to resilience, business continuity, disasters, anything that can help you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Alex Fullick there. I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. Now, I know some of you out there are going to recognize my guest because I felt she was a celebrity at a recent conference where I finally got to meet her face to face in person as she was walking towards myself and my co-host James Green. All I could see were people waving and my guest waving back. So I knew, wow, this is quite the celebrity. So I'm really happy to have on the show today to talk about operational resilience, getting the seat at the C-suite table, Lisa Jones. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Alex, first of all, thank you for having me. And I'm so happy that we finally got to meet in person. We made a connection, I think, through online, through COVID. So to
Yeah.
see people in person, it's been a great experience. Actually put you actually are taller than I thought you
And I'm not that tall. Well, it was great to finally meet you in person, and I'm really happy that you agreed to come on the show. I know it's long overdue, but I'm really glad you agreed to join us today. Now,
Of
I
course.
know I'm pumping you up and I'm talking about you, but we do have listeners literally around the globe, even in Nepal and different countries like that. So, could you take a minute or two and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got into this crazy industry of ours?
Oh boy, we can be here all day. But my name is Lisa Jones. I am currently regional manager for control risk embedded services, as well as the co-founder and managing partner of the Resilience Think Tank. If you haven't heard from about us, please look us up online and LinkedIn. I've been doing this for about 15 years now. It might be a little longer. Sometimes I lose a year or add a year, depending. But I started out again, like many people in our profession who's been in the business for a while. It was something that was assigned to me. I was an administrative assistant, didn't know what business continuity was, let alone software and all these things that they wanted to present to me. And they asked me to be part of this tool that they were using. So fast forward 15 years now, it became something that was I was intimidated by to something that I've made a career out of, and I have loved the experience ever since.
And welcome to the show. I'm glad you're joining us today. And I do find it funny how many people I talk to that just fell into it or were voluntold, to be
Yes,
part of it.
exactly.
But with the think tank, hopefully we'll be able to change that and make a real career out of it for a lot of people.
Yes, we definitely our goal is to and now that you're a member of our wonderful community, we're looking forward for the things that we can do together to really shape the future.
Well, there are a couple of ideas, but we won't give anything away. But there are a
Yes.
couple of ideas. So,
Okay.
so
More to
let's jump.
come.
Yeah. So let's jump into the topic of operational resilience. Getting that seat at the C-suite table.
Yeah.
My first question for you is: a lot of leaders have their own definition of operational resilience, and depending on their backgrounds, it could be different for everybody. How do you define it?
Yeah, so I don't want to upset the operational resilience purists out there. For me, how I define it is really how do we is planning from that end-to-end process of those things that you provide to customers, whether what is the services or products that you provide to customers, and doing the end-to-end process of planning for that process. I understand that there's other pieces to that, but for overall resilience, that's really what we want to focus on. What are those processes, those services, those products that we provide to customers, and how do we make sure that our customers can continue to get those products and services?
I like what you said at the very beginning there, not upsetting, purists and things like that. When it comes to operational resilience or resilience in general, see, I'm already off script, so I've only asked one question. Uh, uh, it really resilience to me is what it should be defined as to how I feel it is, or how it
Mhm.
best fits my organization, rather than trying to change my organization to fit someone else's or another industry's definition of it. I liked your point
Yeah.
there. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah, definitely. And we have to be, let's be clear about why we're talking about operational resilience. Operational resilience is a standard that has come out of Europe, and it's a standard that many organizations, particularly in finance, have to follow. And when you're a global company, yes, you're going to focus on the very definition of what operational resilience is. But if I'm uh, a small business somewhere else, I'm not thinking about that true definition. But what we can do, there are organizations that we can still tell them, hey, organizational resilience is real. I mean, I'm sorry, operational resilience is really about just overall resilience for your organization. How do you ensure that your company can still do its business? I mean, it's more than just a good thing to have. It's a it's value added. As we saw in COVID, I mean, we saw organizations because they didn't think about overall resilience, um, had to shut their doors, went out of business because they didn't have that forethought to think about what resilience was in the beginning. So we're really just talking from an overall perspective, if you do not, for those organizations that do not truly have to adopt those standards or definitions of what operational resilience, the two things, I love both. OpRes, let's say that. OpRes is that they need to adopt in order to meet that finding, that requirement, that standard. There's still parts of it that I think any organization, if they're interested, could adopt and make their company more resilient.
That's part of what a lot of these standards say. Some of these aspects and points that we have in this standard may not apply to you. So adopt what works so that you get the best out of it. And I think
Correct.
sometimes we see a standard or guideline and think we have to follow it so that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. And it's, sometimes then that creates some frustration sometimes.
Yeah, and I think from the resilience perspective, I think because it you can get or you can receive some punitive damages, and we don't even know what those are. I mean, it's not truly defined in the standard. We see organizations that have missed the mark and have paid thousands, millions of dollars. I mean, they're holding particularly the C-suite accountable when they're not performing those regulations and those requirements in. So I can understand the way our industry is responding to this. So it is it. So we don't want to make light of that. In the
Mhm.
same vein, again, because there's so many different types of organizations, so many different industries that look at operational resilience and say, this is not something for me. Or it's this is way too much for me to even put in place. How do I even start? If we change the narrative and say, okay, let's not even think about the regulation itself. Let's think about overall business resilience. And I will not take I can't take credit for that because I heard a colleague say that, and I said he was spot on. So I'll give a shout out to Terry Downing because he when I heard him say that, I said, Eureka, that's what we should be selling, not so much the standard itself, whether it's ISO or or operational resilience or organizational resilience or enterprise resilience. Those things are just things that we can use to level set or kind of give us tools to implement things. But
Mhm.
overall business resilience is what we should be leaning towards and trying to get to. And I think even our C-suite understands it a little better if we give them that approach.
It kind of reminds me of us having a map and we both have the same destination, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to take the same road.
Correct. I may want to avoid some of the tolls that when I go to my destination. You may love the tolls because it gets you there faster. It's all about how we interpret where we want to go and using those tools as roadmaps.
Yeah. So things change so fast though in our industry. Oh, not well, actually, let me take that back. things change so fast. It doesn't matter the industry.
Yeah.
How do you keep pace with operational resilience, or how can operational resilience keep pace with that?
Yeah. I think that's a huge challenge that all organizations have to face. And I think the first thing that we have to do is how can we do continuous monitoring of all of our functions or processes. Now, not every organization has maybe have the budget to do that, which is understandable. We understand these large global corporations have more things that they can do that, can do that continuous monitoring. But that's something that we have to try to adopt. I don't think we'll never be able to capture everything, but we need to do a better job of how we do that. So even if it's some incremental things that we can implement, whether it's through change management, whether it's through, maybe through your risk management organization, even through ITGR, they tend to have the bigger budget. So let's lean on them to kind of get those some of those things in place. But I think that's the first place where we have to start.
I like that approach. How you define that. Break the big pie up into smaller pieces, and it makes it more manageable. Starting with different groups. Too much, and you're going to fall flat on your face.
Yeah, and I think something that I think about when we talk about operational resilience just in general. Smaller companies are actually doing that because if you think about it, you have to bring in DR, you have to bring in the business continuity team, you have to bring in the risk management team. And because companies are small enough, they probably have one or two people doing the same job. Let's be honest. So it's easier for them to really see that end-to-end process and those dependencies and all those things that take place. When you're in a larger company, which is more complex, there's some politics that is involved. There's going to be some challenges ensuring that you're looking at these end-to-end processes. Now, not that it can't be done, it definitely can be done, and that's why it's important to be able to understand the culture of the organization. Also, socializing these things into your organization, really bringing it as part of the culture. It just helps build that overall resilience into an organization.
Not to put you on the spot, but just out of curiosity, do you think it's easier for a smaller company to find that happy state of resilience, or be on that path, than it is for a large organization?
I don't know if it's necessarily easier. It's probably more manageable. And like I said, half the time, because it's such a small organization, they don't even know they're doing it. Because again, I'll give an example. I worked for a smaller organization when I first started. The IT person was also the BC person. We did have a risk management person, and we worked with facilities. We really were doing operational resilience before it was even called or termed operational resilience. It was definitely manageable because again, it was a smaller organization. We had no choice but to talk to each other. we didn't have time to be siloed. But if you go to a bigger company, yes, because you have some of the orgs itself is like, I'm just dealing with this one division with 5,000 processes, and then I got to talk to this division that has maybe 5,000 processes that don't even talk to each other, didn't even know that they're supposed to talk to each other. So bridging that gap could be even more complex. And when you don't have that seat at the table of talking to the C-suite, how do you bubble it up? That's where the challenge comes.
We're going to talk about that in our next segment, because believe it or not, we've already come to the end of our first one. We're talking today with Lisa Jones about getting a seat at the C-suite table, talking about operational resilience, and we will be right back. If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe, and in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.